Welcome to the Queries 3 participation project for the WV K-12 education problem. In this project, we're going to write some more advanced queries, including ones that use grouping to calculate statistics. To get started, I've downloaded and extracted the provided data files for this project, and I've opened up the starter file in Access. Let's start our first new query by going to the Create ribbon and clicking on Query Design. For this query, we're going to evaluate annual performance for each school district. We want to list for each district and school year the population, total enrollment, and an indication if the district had a high graduation rate. So to go and grab the population, I'm going to need to add district statistics, and that's also going to give me district and school year. For enrollment, I'll need to grab school statistics, and that also has graduation rate. So the data that I need is going to come from these two tables here. Let's go and add the individual fields that we're interested in. So for district and school year, we want population, total enrollment. So I'm going to add enrollment, and then this indication if the district had a high graduation rate, which is going to be a calculated field that we're given a formula for in the instructions. Before we do that calculated field, we said that we wanted to have total enrollment, which is not what we're getting right now. If I go and run this query, I'm seeing the enrollment for each of the schools in a particular district. So, we have a whole bunch of records here for Barber for 2012, 2013, and these are the enrollments for each of the schools within those. I want to have a single record for Barber County schools for 2012, 2013 that lists the total enrollment for all the schools. I'm going to head back over to Design View, and I'm going to click on the Totals button here on Query Tools Design. That's going to show this total row down below. Group By are basically the columns, the fields that we want to have displayed that we're not doing any sort of statistical calculation on or any math with. So we want to group by the district, we're going to group by the school year. For the population, we can go ahead and group by that as well, because all of the records are going to show the same population. For enrollment, we don't want to group by. We want to find the total enrollment. So from the drop-down list here under the total row, I'm going to tell it that I want to get the sum. And then let's go and run this query to see what things look like now. So you can see here we have condensed things down. We've got the district and the school year, we have its population, and then we have sum of enrollment, which is our total enrollment. And we have the right number of records. We have 440, but we still need that calculated field. So let's head back over to Design View, and I'm going to click in the first blank column, and then I'm going to go into Builder, and we can start to enter things here. We're given a formula as part of the instructions that we can use, and it's going to start off with the IIF function, which is called immediate if. This is basically Access's version of an if function like you would see in Excel. IIF has three parts, just like the one in Excel. The first one's going to be the condition that we're going to test. Second part's going to be what we want to do if that condition is true. Third part is what to do if that condition is false. In this one here, we want to go and have a condition to see whether the average graduation rate at all the schools that actually graduate students within that district for that year is at least 90%. So we need to figure out how to go and find the average graduation rate to start off with. And for that, we can go and use the AVG function, which is basically going to do the same thing as if I selected average from that little drop-down menu in the total row. Inside the AVG function here, I need to tell it what particular column I am trying to average. I can go and expand out my table here. I can go to Once I've looked at the database file under tables, I can go to school statistics and I can double click on graduation rate. Or I can just type it in directly as listed in the instructions. I'm going to put a closing parenthesis for the average. So we're going to calculate the average graduation rate. And I want to see if it is at least 90%, which translates as greater than or equal to 0.9. If that's true, I'm going to type in a comma, and then I actually want to display the word true inside of double quotes. If that's false, then we'll put a comma and we'll be into the third parameter here, and we're going to display the word false inside of double quotes. I'm going to close up my parentheses there, and then I'm going to go to the very beginning so that I can actually give this calculated field a name other than EXPR1. Let's call it high graduation rate, colon, and then we'll have our formula. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And where it says total here, it's got this group by. Since we're actually going and having this be a calculated field, we want to change where it says group by to be expression instead. Let's go ahead and run this. And you can see we still get 440 records, but now we have the 5 fields that were called for. And we have this last one that's the calculated value that determines if that district had a high graduation rate greater than or equal to 90% for that particular year. We're in good shape here, so let's go and save this query. This is going to be query 5A. I'll tell it OK, and then I'm going to close the query. Our next query is going to look at statistics for intermediate and middle schools. Let's get the query started by going to the Create ribbon and clicking on Query Design. And we need to have the managing district, school name, school year, enrollment, and attendance rate. So basically everything I want is in school statistics except for the school name, and that's in schools. So I'm dragging over those 2 tables here, and I'm just going to populate my grid here with the fields that we want. So I have managing district, double click on school name, grab school year, enrollment, and attendance rate. The instructions tell us further that we should only display records for schools with the intermediate school or middle school school type. And the key here is that we do not want to display the school type in the result. Well, to grab the school type, we have school type abbreviation here, but if we want to set it on the actual full name, which is what we want to do, we're going to have to add the school types table. And then I'm going to add the school type name to my grid so that I can set a criteria on it. So we said that we want to look at records where it is intermediate school as our first option, or middle school. Since we're doing an or, I'm going to go down a row and I type in middle school. Now, I'm setting this criteria, so I need to have the field listed in my grid here, but I don't want to show it in the result. So to get rid of it from the result set, I'm going to uncheck the show box. Let's go and run this and see what we get. So we have 5 fields, which is what the instructions call for, and we have 1,009 records. And if we take a look, everything that's shown up looks like it's a middle school or an intermediate school. We need to head back to Design View, and we have to do some sorting. We want to go and sort by managing district in ascending order, and then school name and school year, and those are also going to be in ascending order. And the order that we had listed here is the order that we're sorting in, so we don't need to reposition anything. Let's run this one more time to make sure it looks good. So we're sorting by district, and then we're sorting by the school names. So like within Barber, we have Beelington first and then Philippi, and then we have by school year within each school. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's go and save this query. It's going to be query 5B. Tell it OK, and then we'll close it. For our next query, we want to calculate the number of schools from each school type for each school year. Let's get started by going to Create ribbon, and we'll click on Query Design. we want to have the school type name. So we're going to add the school types table to our query. And then for the school year, and to be able to figure out how many schools there are, we're going to add school statistics. Let's start to populate our grid. We're going to start off with the school type name. So I'll double click that in school types table. The school year, I can double click from school statistics. And to go and figure out how many schools there are of that type in that year, I'm going to have to add a field that I can go and count. It's pretty common to go and use the primary key for that purpose. So the primary key in school statistics, which is the table that I need to count records in, is ID. So I'll double click on the ID field. When I go and run this right now, you can see that I have each school type, and I have for school years, but I have IDs. And I actually have about 5,361 records, as it turns out. I'm only supposed to have 68 records. What I want to do is, rather than listing the IDs, I want to go and count how many IDs there are. So I'm going to go back to Design View, and I'm going to click on the Totals button here under the Query Tools Design ribbon to go and add my total row. For the ID, I don't want to group by, I'm going to go and count by that. And let me go and run my query again. So you can see now, for example, of the alternative school type in the 2015-2016 year, there were 2 of them. Elementary schools, we started off with 398 in fall of 2012, and by spring of 2020, there's only 361. But the number of combination elementary middle schools actually grew over that time frame. There's different patterns we can kind of see as we look through these numbers here. The one thing that we note, though, is that not all the school types are actually showing. If we go and look at the school types table, you can see like we have this other category and we have technical center. Those aren't appearing. We need to go and change the way the relationship works in this query so that we can display all school types even if they didn't have any associated schools with them. Let's head over to Design View. To go and make that change, we need to double click on our relationship line here. That's going to open up the Join Properties window. Right now we have sort of what's the default option, kind of the standard query. It's what's called an inner join in database parlance. Basically means that we're only going to include rows where the join fields are the same on both. So in order for us to display a school type name, its associated school type abbreviation has to also show up in a record in the school statistics table. That's why we're not getting the other type or the technical center type, because there aren't any records with that type in the school statistics table. We need to change that. We're going to go and choose option 2 here, which says that we want to include all records from the school types table and only those ones from school statistics where the fields are equal. So if there's records where things match, it's going to go and match them. If there isn't an associated record, we're going to at least get the school type name listed. Let's go ahead and click OK. And let's run this query now. So we have most of our data the same as before. You know, for cases where there actually were a particular type of school in use, we have the count of how many schools there were of that type and for the school year that the type existed. Down at the bottom, when we scroll down, though, we get to these ones that we just added from our change to that relationship when we went to what's called the outer join. You can see that we have this other type. It has a count of 0 because there weren't any instances of that type in the school statistics table. The school year field here is empty, or what's called null, and that's because there weren't any records that had values that matched that it could go and actually display a school year for, so it just left it blank. Same thing happened with technical center. Doesn't have any school years with that type, and the count is 0. We have our 68 records, and we have 3 fields. We do need to go and sort things, So let's head back to design view and do that. We're going to sort first by school type name. We'll do that in ascending order, and then by school year, that's also going to be in ascending order. Let's run things one more time, and then we can save this, and it's going to be called query 5C. Going to click OK, and then I'll close the query. For our next query, we're going to figure out how many school districts there are in each region, and we're given SQL code for this in the instructions. Let's get a place for us to copy and paste that code by creating a new query in design view. So we'll go to the create ribbon here and click on query design, and then I'm going to switch over to SQL view, and I'll just hit the backspace key to get rid of the select word that was there. In the instructions, I want to go and copy and paste the SQL code. So with it highlighted, I'm going to right click and tell it to copy. I'll switch back to access, and then I can right click and paste my query here. And I'm going to run it. So we have some data that looks plausible. The instructions tell us that we're supposed to have 10 records and 2 fields. That's what we have, 10 records, 2 fields. But let's take a look at things here. We're saying, for example, that there are 32 districts in the Greenbrier Valley, 32 in the Metro Valley, 56 in North Central West Virginia. If we go and add up these numbers here, this is showing a couple hundred districts. We know that there's only 55 districts in West Virginia, so something is not right here. Let's go over to design view and take a look. So we have the region that we're going through and grouping by, and we're sorting by that. And then we have the district count, where we're going through and counting district names from the districts table. So we're going through and using 2 fields coming out of the districts table. We also have district statistics here. That's actually what's causing the problem, why we're getting too high of a count, because it's going through and using this relationship, so it's coming up with different combinations for all the school years for the district. So rather than just having this district be counted once, it's being counted once for every school year. We need to go and get rid of the district statistics table to go and correct our count. So with this district statistics table selected, by clicking on it there, I can right click and say to remove table. Since I wasn't using any fields from it, it doesn't change my grid down below. But if I go and run this query again, we get some numbers that look a little bit better here. We're getting that there were 4 districts in the Greenbrier Valley, which is correct. This is a problem that you have to watch out for when you're doing totals queries, where you're going through and grouping by. If you go and include tables that you don't use for anything, it can throw off your count. You have to be careful with tables. Sometimes people want to just go and add every potential table to a query, whether or not they need it. And that's not something that you want to do, because you're going to get inaccurate results like this. When you go and add a table, it needs to be either because you're actually using a field from it, like we're using these 2 fields from the districts table, or you need it to go and connect to another table that you're using fields from. So, if I went and grabbed district statistics, this is what I had before, I'm not doing anything with it. But if I go and add school statistics and I want to use something out of school statistics, I do need to have district statistics there as a bridge, be able to tie things together. But since I'm not using anything from school statistics and I'm not using anything from district statistics, I want to remove those tables so that my counts aren't thrown off. And it's not just counts that are impacted, going through and summing up things, finding averages, stuff like that. Those can all be messed up. So just be careful. Don't leave out tables if you need them to serve as a bridge, but otherwise don't include them unless you're actually using fields from those tables. Let's go ahead and run this one more time, make sure it looks good, and it does. And I'm going to save this as query 5D. I'll click OK, and I'll go ahead and close the query. Let's take a look at our analysis question. So we're going to open up the analysis questions table, and this is going to be question 6A. And we're asked what are some possible causes of low graduation rates, which are defined here as below 90%. There's no one right answer to this question here. What my answer is just that low graduation rates a lot of times have some sort of economic reason behind them. West Virginia is a fairly poor state. So a lot of times people may have family situations where they need to go and get a job to earn some money. They might not be able to stay in school because of that. So that's what my response is here. There's plenty of other answers that could make sense for this as well. Just make sure that you're going and giving a reason and you're trying to provide some sort of support for why you're actually listing that reason. At this point, we're just about done. I'm going to close out of the analysis questions table, and then I'll go to the database tools ribbon, and I'm going to run compact and repair database. And we're finished. You'll want to close out of Access and submit your project.